I think like a lot of American Catholics, I grew up Catholic, and my parents, we went to Mass every Sunday, and we did CCD, but I never fell in love with Jesus. Like, I didn't know that was an option. It was kind of more of a fear-based, kind of like, don't do this, otherwise you're going to go to hell. And my parents were very wonderful, but it's kind of like the impression that I got. And so my first love, though, in life was sports. So I fell in love with sports very young, and played Division I volleyball in college. So I wanted to work for ESPN, so I was hoping for a career in journalism. But at that same time, I also met a Catholic priest that came into my life. And there's a great saying in 12-step circles that we're only as sick as our secrets. And I had a lot of secrets, a lot of trauma, a lot of unhealed trauma, a lot of brokenness. And I would have told you as a teenager even that I was fine. I didn't have any problems. And it was just the delightful lack of self-awareness is just wonderful, which we all have, right? And so Father came into my life, and that man, I'd never seen anybody who loved Jesus like that. And he wasn't perfect. Nobody's perfect. But he loved Jesus, and he loved his priesthood. He loved people well, and he just became like a spiritual father to me. And it's one of the reasons why I speak to this day still about authentic personal witness, because you can't fake that. Like, there are things in life you can fake, but an experience of Christ that somebody knows, not just knows about Jesus, but knows him, you can't fake that. And it was like that with Father. He was radiant. And I just would look at him sometimes, and I could see Jesus looking at me through his eyes. So I was 21 years old, and I was about to go work in the media, and I was a full-blown addict at that time, and just all kinds of brokenness happening. And I just remember I was meeting with Father at one point. I was like, Father, I don't know what's happening, but he was just radiant. And I just said, whatever you have, I want that. Like, whatever that is, I want that. And he said to me, you come and see. And I did. And I came down to one of our missions in New Mexico, and I heard Jesus call me to religious life to be his bride. And I've been saying yes ever since. And I had, just a lot of experiences in life. But that's when I started to heal, when I did religious life. And so it's been nearly a 20-year journey. It was in religious life for a while before the Lord opened my heart deeply. But it's been like a 20-year journey of healing and restoration. And I just believe in the love of God. I believe in his kindness and how that brings us to wholeness and communion. So, yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, I think it's important to speak a bit more about healing. I mean, that's kind of your thing.
Yeah.
And I think from a kind of UK perspective, we are the originators of the stiff upper lip,
yes,
and kind of being, keeping quiet, keeping it all suppressed, keeping it all inside.
Yeah.
And I mean, we often will sort of jokingly refer to the Americans who want to talk about everything all the time. And I mean, I think it's interesting that here as well, of late, the discussion surrounding mental health, or the problems that people have had in their past, and the way that they affect their present and their future, is something that people are speaking more and more about. I mean, I'd be really interested to hear, how you kind of undertook that journey. When did you realise it was important, and what the crossover is with that kind of therapeutic culture, which is very kind of prevalent in the States, a bit less here, although it's growing, and Catholicism, how those two kind of mesh together. What are the possible kind of risks of the two overlapping, or do they? I mean,
those are great questions. Yeah, those are great questions, and those are questions people are asking a lot right now. As you talk about, I don't know if she's British, Abigail Schreier, who just wrote a book about bad therapy. And so I think a lot of us think there's only two options: either I keep a stiff upper lip and we don't dig up our past, we don't talk about this, or it's like this self-indulgent kind of look at my wounds, pick at my wounds, and there's neither option is ideal. And so Christ is always the mediator of virtue in the middle. So the whole goal of therapy is to have my heart become like Christ. That's the whole. So I was mentioning last night in the conference that, the goal of the healing journey is not so I can get back into control or pick at my wounds or fix myself so then you can't hurt me anymore. The goal of the whole healing journey is Christian discipleship, which is to have my heart become like Jesus. So really a true healing journey is going to make me like Christ. A true healing journey is going to lead me out of myself and into love of another. So it's going to, I look at Jesus and I just look at how he lives and I look at how I live. And I just look at Jesus as a man who's appropriately moved. Like, he doesn't keep a stiff upper lip. Like, his heart is moved when it's supposed to be moved, and it's moved as deeply. His heart is grieved. He is angry at times. He is compassionate. He experiences pity. He weeps. And I just look at him, and he doesn't have hardness of heart. He doesn't have self-defense mechanisms. He's not passive aggressive. And that's the human heart fully alive. So I'm like, all right, Lord, what is in my life? And every society has its ways of dealing with things, and honoring the society we come from, but also understanding Dr. Dan Allender, who's a Christian therapist, said, in order to heal, we have to be both honoring and honest. And without one of those two things, we're not going to heal. So to honor our cultures and our parents and where they came from, but also to be very honest as well. And we can all admit, like, American culture has its own pitfalls, just like any other culture. So kind of noticing the difference between those two. But if in therapy or in spiritual direction or even my journey in Christian discipleship, if it's actually not making me more like Christ, I really have to look at it and say, well, what's happening? Because that's really the whole goal. Like, that's what the Holy Spirit does. He's a sanctifier. He makes Christ present in us. And that's the whole journey.